Okay. Sorry that I didn't get this out sooner. Got tired. Part 2 for this. Y'all have been waiting long enough. Confronting Grossum. No sooner had we entered the Gibbs estate than Matthias charged ahead of me. Keeping up with him was tough even in my high beast. This place had once been his home, so there wasn't any hesitation in his footsteps. On more than one occasion, we passed a corpse slumped against the side of the hallway, servants unfortunate enough to have crossed paths with Grossum, I suspected. Yeah, most likely. Still running full tilt, Matthias turned his staff into a sword and then enchanted it with darkness, as was taught in the Knight's Order. I formed my staff, turned it into a water gun, and said the relevant prayer. Almighty and supreme God of darkness, who rules the endless skies, Almighty Father who created the world and all things, please hear my prayer and lend your divine strength. Bless my weapon with the power to steal mana, all the mana which is yours by right. Grant me your divine protection to purge the unnatural Fae. Lady Rosemary, Matthias said when he saw my black water gun, please refrain from attacking and instead focus on blocking the door. Matthias? I doubt Grossum knows what kind of weapons you use or which divine instruments you can make. If we plan to win this war, then we will do well to conceal such information for the perfect moment. Until then, I shall fight him alone. He's got a point. You don't know what information he's got. You'd rather keep all your trump cards hidden for the time being. And use them when you need to. Matthias' eyes were brimming with resolve, but they narrowed when he saw the staircase ahead of us. There are traps on these stairs. Disarming them will take some time. Can we not simply fly over them? Get in! We don't have time to waste with traps. I made Leslie large enough for 2 people and patted the passenger seat. Matthias glanced between the stairs and my panda bus, then let out a small chuckle and climbed inside. Is something funny? I asked. Not exactly. I expected Grossum to put detection traps on this particular staircase since there are no other paths to reach him. Knowing we can simply fly over them is just... that makes the traps irrelevant. The stairs in this estate weren't broad enough for a high beast to flourish its wings. My idea was only feasible because of my panda bus's unique shape and design. Oh, yeah. Matthias found it amusing that because using a high beast indoors was such an unusual concept, Grossum had never even considered what we were about to do. You always act outside of everyone's expectations, Lady Rosemine. I was speechless when you shattered the walls between factions in the Ehrenfest dormitory, and when you spared even the pre-baptism children from the purge. Looking back, I am relieved that I get to serve someone who always does so much to save people, instead of Lady Georgine, who would order a man to invade and subsequently destroy his own home. We flew over the stairs and soon arrived outside our destination, a room on the estate's 2nd floor. Matthias climbed out of my high beast, his expression tight, and placed one hand on the door. Then he took a deep breath and, now! His resolve steeled, Matthias rushed into the room. I did the same, violently slamming the door shut behind me with Leslie's tail, and enlarged my panda bus so that there was completely blocked the entryway. So, some of you were still able to pass through the barrier, Grossum said as he turned around to face us. Blue flames coiled around him like a suit of armor. He swung his fire-infused right hand at those attacking him outside, then came in from the balcony. I spotted someone slumped on the ground, the man assigned to replace Grossum as Geeb Gerlach, no doubt. Blood was still pooling beneath him. Healing, it won't work, Matthias said, interrupting me. He's already turning into a face stone. He then stepped in front of me, his black sword raised, and carefully stared down on our opponent. Grossum grimaced at the sight of my panda bus and me, then approached us with his gleaming black prosthesis raised. Are you not ashamed to be serving a commoner, Matthias? I realize your hands were tied, but still. I consider it far more shameful to serve an invader, Matthias replied, his voice calm but cold as ice. Not only have you brought harm to your own duchy's archduke candidates, but you've also turned your back on your home and its people. Grossum's brow twitched. This must have been the first time one of his sons had spoken back to him. Lady Georgine is an Ehrenfest archduke candidate, not an invader. Say it now. No, she's not. Not anymore. She stopped being an Ehrenfest archduke candidate the minute she was married into Ahrensbach. So no, she is not. Yeah, thank you. Thank you! No, she was an Ehrenfest archduke candidate until she became a member of Ahrensbach's archducal family. And now that Lady Rosemine has taken its foundation, she isn't even that anymore. Haha. Well, he doesn't really care. Grossum gave me a cruel smile. I no longer care who holds the position of Ob Ahrensbach. Ehrenfest is Lady Georgine's true prize. She brings only chaos and destruction wherever she goes, Matthias shouted, holding up his blade. I will not allow her to become Ob. Eyeing his son without the slightest trace of emotion, Grossum slowly raised his flame-covered right hand. One must destroy the old to make room for the new. To think even that much was beyond her understanding. Of all my sons, why did the most useless and incompetent have to survive? Oh, shut up. For just a moment, Matthias pressed his lips together. Grossum was giving him a cold, disparaging look, completely devoid of any fatherly love. I am now registered as an Arensbach noble, which means you are a son of mine no longer, Grossum continued. Cease wasting my time and die already. I will not allow you to stand in Lady Georgine's way. Oh, yeah, right, you're not going to be able to win. He swung his right hand, and the blue flames leaped at Matthias as though they had a mind of their own. Matthias chopped them apart with his black sword, creating an opening large enough for Grossum to dart over and kick him in the stomach. Yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for Matthias. I mean, this guy is able to fight despite being a scholar. You might be a knight, but you don't have the experience that Grossum has. Because I'm sure he's been training to fight even somewhat for a good portion of his life. Matthias grunted in response to the blow. It was hard to believe that a scholar could fight at such a tremendous speed. Grossum's movements were comparable to those of a physically enhanced knight, bringing even Angelica to mind. Matthias held up his sword again and took a step back in preparation for the next attack. Huh, you were so arrogant before, yet this is the best you can do? He hasn't even attacked you yet! Grossum asked, oozing confidence. Knights train their bodies, whereas scholars make complex magic tools. Let us see which is stronger. He crossed his flaming right hand with his black prosthesis. In mere moments, the entire room was torn apart. The reception desk exploded and turned to ash, while the chair beside it split cleanly in two. We could see Lorenz at the balcony window trying to rush to our aid, but an invisible wall was blocking him. Well, of course, because it said only members of the Archducal family and family members could get in there. Matthias was facing Grossum alone. He couldn't rely on anyone coming to his rescue. An attack from his foe's prosthesis would drain his mana, whereas an attack from his foe's other hand would cause severe burns. And then there were the blue flames still darting about the room. As his first move, Matthias desperately attempted to block Grossum's right hand with his black sword. He was struck on the defensive, unable to do much else against such an intimidating adversary. I designed these magic tools to vanquish Lord Bonifacius. Someone of your level could never hope to compete with them, Grossum sneered. He and Georgine had expected the former knight commander to arrive with his own troops and join the fray, while Karlstedt stayed put to defend the castle and the noble's quarter. That man's instincts, initiative, and combat potential are all deserving of the greatest caution. He was the one who interfered that winter night when I planned to secure that commoner. Yeah, it was Grossum who did go after mine before. As far as Grossum was concerned, luring Bonifacius away from the noble's quarter had been the most crucial step in helping Georgine steal our foundation. Bonifacius was unpredictable. He had a talent for crushing schemes that neither Sylvester nor Karlstedt shared. And these magic tools were for taking him down? I didn't know what magic tools Grossum had made, and it was impossible to ignore how immensely strong they had made him. That didn't mean he was going to win, though. He was only so arrogant because he hadn't factored me into this fight. Think, Rosamund, how have you participated in battles before now? I glanced at my darkness-blessed water gun, which I was keeping concealed for the time being. As far as I can remember, other people usually did my fighting for me. I seldom took down opponents of my own. My accuracy was poor, and while I could channel more mana into my water gun to guarantee a hit, the resultant blast would wound Matthias as well. So you would have to wait for an opening, essentially. There are some things I know anyone could do if they knew about them, but right now I'm the only one. I channeled mana into my ring. If Grossum was going all out with his magic tools, then I would do the same with my blessings. Not a single part of me questioned this decision. My restraint had fallen by the wayside long ago. Styfbriest, the goddess of the gale. Dang it, what was this one? Dolsetsin, the goddess of endurance. That's a new one. Subordinate to Shutsaria, the goddess of wind. Grant Matthias your protection. A gentle yellow light rained down on Matthias, who managed to dodge Grossum's next kick. He would only continue to improve as he got used to the blessing. A meager speed boost won't aid you in the slightest, Grossum said. Now I was really ticked off. I could easily have granted more blessings, but it was better to start small so that the recipient could get used to them. Too many blessings could end up being a curse, as we had seen during our time at the Royal Academy. Yeah, during the Dunkelfelder demonstration of their ritual. Yeah. Still, I'll show you what happens when I get serious. Oh, Omgrif, the god of war. Schlogziel, the god of hunting. Subordinates to Leidenschaft, the god of fire. Grant Matthias your protection. This time, blue light rained down on Matthias. It was supposed to improve both his accuracy and the strength of his blows. And indeed, as I watched the battle play out, I noticed that his swordplay had improved significantly. Grossum was actually having to dodge his attacks. However, perhaps because of the wounds he had sustained thus far, Matthias wasn't moving as freely as usual. He needed to be healed. Oh, Hellschmers, the goddess of healing. Verdrena, the goddess of thunder, and Greifchan, the goddess of luck. Listen, no one. Subordinates to Flutrain, the goddess of water, grant Matthias your protection. The next blessing was green. Matthias would receive not only Hellschmer's healing, but also the momentum of Verdrena, who could repel even Abiglade with her power. And of course, some extra fortune wasn't going to hurt our chances. As I'd hoped, Matthias gained an astounding burst of speed. He used his sword to block Grossum, who had reached out his black hand in an attempt to steal mana, and grinned. What madness is this? Grossum asked, cheek twitching as his dominant streak crumbled into pieces. Enough of your games. Games? These are nothing of the sort, Matthias retorted. Just as scholars support themselves with magic tools, Lady Rosemine supports her knights with blessings. As someone with the gods' favor and plenty of experience with temple ceremonies, this is how she does battle. I see you have gone mad since last we met, Matthias. Not really, he's not lying on this one. Grossum was landing hits, but now Matthias was too. My stream of blessings must have put them on an equal footing. The smile on my retainer's face was getting broader. Over Dreos, the god of deliverance, subordinate to the god of darkness. Oh, shoot. How am I going to even pronounce this? Unhelschneed, the goddess of purification, subordinate to the goddess of light, grant your protection to Matthias. As I prayed for Matthias to cut down misfortune and forge ahead on whatever path he chose, black and golden light spread throughout the room. I appreciated that one could simplify a prayer by praying to subordinates to the two supreme god at once. That should do for now, though. The god of life's subordinates are fickle. One wrong move could end up dispelling the other god's blessings. I was satisfied with my work, but Grossum's face contorted with rage as he continued to attack. He swung his black hand at his opponent, knocking him back. Matthias's pained gasp was barely even audible over the sound of the impact. Grossum finally addressed me. I would never have thought blessings could transform a basic knight like Matthias into someone able to fight me equally. I intended to drain every last drop of the mana that brought about your adoption. Huh? But this necessitates a change of plans. I shall ensure that you die here. Our opponent swung his right hand, throwing more blue flames in our direction. Matthias caught some with his sword and absorbed them, but those he missed came straight toward my pandabus. They slammed into its windshield, and the mana I was using to maintain Leslie's form drained out of me through the steering wheel. I gulped, now painfully aware that I wasn't as safe as I thought. It hadn't even crossed my mind that I might lose this much mana while sitting inside my high beast. He's so strong. Grossman made his magic tools to counter Bonifacius, so seeing them in action made me wonder how inhuman the former knight commander's strength must have been. I was actually wondering this before I got started, after I had read the prologue and all that. How do you make body doubles? Because apparently he had body doubles at some point. Matthias got between Grossman and me, readying his sword once again. Complain that Lady Rosemond is a commoner all you want, but there is nobody I would rather serve, he said with a provocative smile. Tell me, has Lady Georgine ever blessed you? Silence, Grossman retorted, knocking the blade aside with his prosthesis before responding with a gout of blue fire. Matthias dodged the attack and continued. Has she ever used her mana for your sake? Or does she only ever take yours? Has she ever saved your life, your pride, your home? Has she ever defended you? Because that should be what a lord or lady should do for their retainers, because they put everything on the line for them. Surely they can do the same. Silence. As if unable to think of a single time Grossum had done any of those things, or Georgine had done any of those things, Grossum furiously knocked Matthias aside and turned to look at me. His gray eyes were ablaze with pure rage. I'll take that as a no, then. You arrogant half-wit, Grossum snapped, his face so red that not even his flames can mask it. You don't have the slightest idea what you're on about. One's loyalties shouldn't be driven by the expectations of rewards. I work so that my lady's wishes can be granted, and as much as I want to follow her on her path, I would never expect anything in return. Do not undermine my devotion with your nonsense. Yes, that is a thing where essentially you should not expect rewards for doing a good job. But, depending on the lord or lady, they can give rewards. So Georgine is not one of those types of people. Grossum thrust his fist into Matthias' flank, sending him flying into the wall. The one person standing between us was now gone, allowing Grossum to look straight at me. His eyes were multicolored and rich of mana. Uh-oh, he's getting his motions coming out, betraying the anger that must have been eating away at him. Come out of that creature, commoner, he roared. I will reduce you to ashes. Feel my strength. Not today. Just as Grossum swiped at me, Matthias leaped between us and swung his sword. A loud clatter rang out like the sound of metal striking stone, and the flames covering our foe waned just enough to reveal a blue face stone. Matthias' black sword must have stolen too much mana for the fire to stay active. Grossum's movements also seemed considerably more sluggish than before. Matthias tore into the flames with a series of attacks. Each swipe stole more of their mana, causing them to shrink and gradually reveal bare skin and more blue face stones. I suppose this is my limit, Grossum muttered as the flames around him disappeared, retreating back into the face stones. What? Once the fire was gone, Matthias and I realized that Grossum wasn't just wearing face stone armor. Large chunks of his body had actually transformed. It was a sickening sight to behold. Huh? Is he turning into a face stone? Or is that because of what I'm confused. Stones dug into his flesh while others seemed crammed beneath his skin. He didn't even look human anymore. Matthias' face contorted as well. Yup, how foolish you both look, Grossum said dismissively. Even the greatest simpleton would understand that operating this many magic tools this aggressively requires an absurd amount of mana. How? Why? Matthias asked. Why are you going to such extreme lengths for Lady Georgine? My explanation would mean nothing to you. Grossum averted his gaze, seemingly not wanting to look Matthias in the eye. In the next moment, he put all his remaining mana into enhancing his speed and charged straight at my retainer. The noise of glass shattering filled the room as Matthias was swung out into the balcony. Matthias! I cried reflexively. Grossum didn't even pause to check the results of his throw. He sprinted over to the dead Geeb and thrust his prosthesis straight into the man's chest. He dug around as if searching for the man's heart, and a moment later, his blue flames burst back into existence. The corpse was likewise swallowed up before disappearing. Uh-oh. So, what, did you absorb the face stone? You, commoner girl, Grossum said, a harsh glint in his eyes as he turned to look at me. My breath caught in my throat. Stealing mana and a face stone from a dead man was bad enough, but the tenacity and almost insane dedication to Georgine that had driven him to such a horrid act was what terrified me most. You cannot be allowed to live, Grossum said plainly. Then he lunged at me, ready to tear Leslie apart with his black hand. There was no longer anyone in the room who could protect me, nor was there anyone I needed to protect. The risk of accidentally wounding one of my allies had disappeared completely. Oh, so now you can call all out! I stuck my water gun out the window of my panda bus and pulled the trigger. My mana shot out the end as a black arrow, then broke apart into many tiny arrows that pierced their target. Ha ha ha! Gotcha! Grossum roared and covered his face, which had taken the most abuse, before toppling over. Even as he fell, however, he managed to escape Leslie's front with his prosthesis. Thank God. I managed to scrape. Never mind, he got it. Stealing mana from a high beast was easy enough, and the flames around him increased in intensity. Excellent, give me all of your mana. Nah, you ain't getting any more. Grossum swung back up like a doll on strings and once again swung his black hand at me. Perhaps because of the arrows, even his face had mostly turned into face. Oh, that's creepy. That's creepy. Now I can't wait to see this. Oh, that's going to be a while before we see this in animation. The gray eyes peeking out from among harsh stone and raging blue flames was a worrying sight indeed. A shiver ran down my spine. Far from being impenetrable, my high beast was feeding Grossum's strength. I squeezed my steering wheel, frantic, and poured even more mana into Leslie. Stay away. All of your mana shall be mine. To ensure my safety, no matter how much of my mana was stolen, I enlarged my panda bus and made it rear up at Grossum. He was thrust back against the window, but reached out just in time to stab Leslie's stomach with his black hand. An immense amount of my mana was sucked out through my steering wheel. Ah! As unfortunate as it was, I didn't have any fighting experience whatsoever. Grossum would eliminate me the moment I ran out of mana to keep my high beast formed, but I won't lose to him. I gripped the steering wheel and flirted it with far more mana than my opponent could drain. Leslie continued to grow larger and larger. What? Grossum muttered, my hand is turning into... Nice! Nice! Your prosthesis is going bye-bye! Turned into gold dust? My tactic was saturating his body with mana, causing his fingers to crack and crumble away. So basically, as long as I continued to pour mana into him, I might actually win. I found a glimmer of hope, and not a moment later, Ferdinand shouted, now! The barriers surrounding the estate must have been deactivated or destroyed. My knights flooded in from the balcony and stabbed Grossum with their black weapons. Oopsie! Some of them stabbed my panda bus by mistake, but I could forgive them in those circumstances. Grossum had already been in shock about his mana-stealing black hand turning to dust, but this ambush didn't elicit a reaction at all. He merely broke apart like a shattered face stone, leaving behind only shards and gold dust. Bye-bye. Victory! victory in return. I see you both kept busy while I was overriding the Geeves Foundation. Oh, that's what he was doing! That's what you were doing, dude! I was wondering what was going on. Ferdinand said in a cold voice, tell me, how did things end up like this? I sat bolt upright and my panda bus quickly deflated down to its usual size. I'd been too caught up in the battle to notice before, but during my attempt to intimidate Grossum, Leslie's head and front legs had burst right through the roof of the estate, creating a massive hole. Oopsie! As I stared up at the blue sky and at Ferdinand, who was looming over me, I desperately tried to think of an excuse. Grossum's black hand was breaking Leslie apart. I mean, look at his face! He's hurt! Fire was shooting all over the place and, well, I needed to make my panda bus bigger. It was the only way to keep me safe, or at least that was what I thought, but I was trying to plead my case when I suddenly realized the true severity of our situation. Geeve estates were made by the Ob through the use of an Entwicklung, and they were constructed out of pure white ivory. The people of Haas had been accused of treason simply for attacking a monastery, so this was very bad. Ferdinand, am I going to be charged with treason? You are the current Ob Ehrensbach, Ferdinand said dryly. Rather than an act of treason, this could be considered a declaration of war. Oh, great! Sylvester is not going to be happy about this. The blood dripped my face. No! That wasn't my intention! Not in the slightest! Please, Ferdinand, apologize to Sylvester for me. Maybe I could give him the gold dust he needs for the Entwicklung and pay for any further repairs. Would that be enough to smooth things over? I would not know. Please, I need your help now more than ever. Ferdinand gave an amused chuckle, then held out a hand to me. Perhaps we should embrace the inevitable scolding. It would seem that the situation in Ehrenfest has likewise been resolved. That was quick! I can't wait to get to the part where we find out what Sylvester did to Georgine. I want to know. I want to know what the fuck happened. Accepting his encouragement, I stepped out of my high beast and looked around. My knights were caught up in a lively debate over who had dealt the killing blow to Grossum. Who cares? But I ignored them and stared up at Ferdinand. Is the fighting really over, I asked? I would gain nothing from lying to you. An ordinance from the Archduke arrived not too long ago. Grossum and Georgine were acting in perfect sync. As it turned out, they really had planned thoroughly. Grossum had conquered the estate and old workstocks. Geeve had started stealing mana at the same time that Georgine had arrived in Ehrenfest to begin her battle. Sylvester was on his way to the Foundation's hall when we sent him our ordnance. He was pleased to hear of our safe arrival, it seems. Was anyone in the temple or lower city wounded, I asked, cutting right to the chase. Sylvester had told us the battle was over, but what did that mean? Had Georgine made it all the way to the Foundation, or had they captured her while she was still en route? As you can expect, the report was not detailed enough for me to answer that. Sylvester had told us only that our war with Georgine was over. In truth, his vague summary of the situation made me want to return to Ehrenfest at once. I was dying to see if everyone was okay. Will we make it there by nighttime if we left right away? Well, let's head to Ehrenfest, I said. Hold on, Ferdinand interjected. You must settle matters here first. Under no circumstances can we just leave them as they are. I wavered. Truth be told, now that the threat of old workstock was no more, I wanted to leave everything else to the locals and go home. Well, what do I need to do, I asked. And when can I return to Ehrenfest? It would not be wrong of you to relieve Gerlach to the remaining knights and nobles until the Og gives his final verdict. However, if you do not forget your role as Ob Ehrensbach, you must instruct your duchy, and above all else, conclude the situation with Dunkelfelder. I'm not sure what you mean. I certainly didn't want to disrespect the knights who had done so much for our sake, but why couldn't we bring them back to Ehrenfest with us? Then the Ob would be able to thank them personally. First, announce our victory. As you invited Dunkelfelder knights to this game of true dinner, it will not end until you declare the outcome. If you leave now, they will need to come with you. And need I remind you that Ehrenfest has just endured a battle against intruders. I placed a hand on my cheek and cocked my head, unsure why Ferdinand was so opposed to us taking Dunkelfelder's knights to the city. Is there a problem with that? They've done so much to assist us that I would expect Sylvester to thank or even reward them. It's a perfect excuse for us to leave now and take them with us. Oh God, at the cost of Ehrenfest food and alcohol, Ferdinand said with a sigh and a shake of his head. This is news to me, since I'd been asleep at the time, but Dunkelfelder's knights had used the delay in their departure to hold non-stop feasts, loosely disguised as meetings in a single day. They had consumed nearly all the food and wine in Ehrensbach's castle. What? Guys! Shame on you! Bringing those same knights to Ehrenfest, which had spent the past month preparing for war, would deal a huge blow to an already exhausted city. My knights were listening with flat expressions, all nodded in agreement. Ferdinand must have had every right to be concerned. But we can't send them home empty-handed, can we? I asked. We will discuss the matter of payment with Ob Dunkelfelder, but there's no need for us to rush. Go briefly to Bindewald and use a teleportation circle to return the knights to their duchy's border gate. We may need to repay them for their magic tools, but we are under no obligation to fund their feasting. Surely that's a bit... I paused mid-sentence. Dunkelfelder had arrived in the dead of night, sortied in the dead of night, rescued Ferdinand, dealt with Lonzanov, and then come all the way to Gerlach. Shooing them away now that we were done with them seemed unfathomably rude. As I pleaded with Ferdinand, Strahl came to report the captured old Workstock knights had been sent to Bindewald. I took a step back to give him some space. Lord Ferdinand, almost all of old Workstock's knights have been captured, he said. Dunkelfelders are chasing the few Giebs who escaped into the forest. Thanks to our allies' assistance, we had captured almost all of old Workstock's knights and Giebs. Our focus was now on collecting the scattered face stones. I see, Ferdinand replied. Continue as you are. Understood. Strahl took a step back, allowing me to approach Ferdinand and tug on his sleeve. See how much they're helping us? Dunkelfelder's knights need our gratitude, but what they need is an exorbitant amount of alcohol. I should also note that no preparations have been made for such a sizable feast. You never considered the relevance of provisions precisely because you meant for this to be a brief, decisive battle, no? Do you intend to make food appear out of thin air? If only. He was right. I told Ob Dunkelfelder that it would take me only 2 bells to save Ferdinand. I hadn't considered the cost of feeding an army of this size for days on end, and trying to prepare a feast now would require us to run around nabbing chefs. The match is concluded. Announce our victory and send the knights home, Ferdinand said. That is the best course of action. Lady Rosemine, Lord Ferdinand, Cornelius called. Yes, I asked, turning to look at him. I believe Lord Strahl has more to say. He indicated Strahl, who was kneeling a few steps away from us. The man must not have wanted to interrupt our conversation, so Cornelius had stopped in for him, having most likely deduced that we weren't going to stop anytime soon. What is it, Strahl? Ferdinand asked. There were some details I neglected to mention. The Bindewald summer estate had food and wine prepared to celebrate the return of old Workstock's Giebs. Could we not use those supplies to celebrate Dunkelfelder's achievements? That reminded me. Fraulein and those with her had mentioned something about an arrangement like that. Ferdinand gave his temple a few contemplative taps. Rosemine, that would allow you to reward the knights as you so wish without bringing them into the city. As for words of gratitude from Ob Ehrenfest, I would advise that Lady Hannelore serve as her duchy's representative. She can accompany us with her retainers and her fellow commander Heischitz. That's fine. That is completely fine. Have a representative come. Well said, I replied. As much as I wanted our nobles to know how much Dunkelfelder had done to protect Ehrenfest, bringing its entire force to see the Archduke wouldn't be necessary. If we leave Dunkelfelder's knights in Bindewald, we can have Sylvester activate the teleportation for us and travel to Ehrenfest in the blink of an eye. That said, the supplies in Bindewald will only last so long, and we will need to return to Ahrensbach tomorrow. In other words, my return to Ehrenfest will only be short. Indeed, we have much to gain from exchanging reports, bringing each other up to speed, and rewarding those who have aided us. But our work is not yet done. Detlinde and Leondio have gone to the sovereignty, at least as far as we know, and something must be done about them. In truth, I wasn't at all worried about the sovereignty. The royals had agreed to contact Dunkelfelder if anything happened there, and the other greater duchies were already abreast of the situation. Still, no matter how low it placed on my list of priorities, we couldn't rest until every loose end was taken care of. A single day will do, then, I replied with a nod. Seeing the lower city and the temple with my own eyes should assuage my concerns, though I might struggle to leave again. Fear not, I shall drag you away if necessary. That's not what she wanted! Is it just me? Are you being really mean all of a sudden? I cried, glaring up at Ferdinand. It was easy to imagine him literally dragging me out of the city. He would! He would probably do that! Am I? He asked, his head cocked to one side. Is this not how things have always been between us? Thinking about it, you're completely right. It's so nostalgic I could cry. Do so later. For now, send an ordinance to the Ob, asking to prepare guest rooms for our visitors and to use a teleporter to save us some time. I shall instruct those from Ahrensbach. It was seriously unlikely that any knights from Ahrensbach, not even the ones serving Ferdinand, would receive a warm welcome if we brought them with us to Ehrenfest. Instead, they were all instructed to host Dunkelfelder's knights in Bindewald. Host them, That sounds like a pretty brutal punishment. Yeah. I sent an ordinance to Sylvester informing him that the Battle of Gerlach had concluded, that we intended to return with Hannelore and co., and that we needed permission to enter the city and access to some guest rooms, and that we wanted to use a teleporter to save time. Ob Ehrenfest sent us an ordinance. Ehrenfest's foundation was kept safe from the invaders, I announced, stepping onto the partially destroyed balcony. Hannelore, Heischitz, and Ferdinand stood with me as I addressed the knights gathered in the front garden with the sound-amplifying magic tool Matthias had retrieved from the estate. This, coupled with my successful acquisition of Aronsbach's foundation, means the outcome of our match is clear. I hereby announce our victory in this game of true dare! Yeah! Booyah! Dunkelfelder's knights took out their staffs, made weapons, and slammed them against the ground in celebration. Then they thrust them high up into the air. Ehrenfest was at a numerical disadvantage against Armsbach and Old Workstock, but the participation of you honorable volunteers allowed us to pull through. Your courage and strength are second to none in all of Jürgen-Schmidt. Hurrah! Though it might pale in comparison to the value of your achievements, a feast will soon await you in the Bindewald estate. We would ask you to go there once business in this province is complete. The Knights of Aronsbach will guide you. Upon seeing the intense fervor that had overtaken her knights, Hannelore stepped forward and made Verfirmer staff. Then she performed Dunkelfelder's post-dinner victory ritual to curb their excitement. I guess it really is an essential part of their culture. Once calm, the knights began to move. Hannelore let out a relieved sigh, which I took as my cue to mention to the rest of our plans. Lady Hannelore, Ob Ehrenfest has invited you to High Ehrenfest's castle so that he might express his gratitude in person. I am going there only briefly to report on the war, after which I must return to Aronsbach, so I realize this is all rather sudden. Nonetheless, I went on to detail who was invited and how we would get there. Hannelore thought for a moment, then called over Heischitz, to whom I gave the same explanation. Of course, if you would rather head straight home, I could send you also the border gate between Aronsbach and Dunkelfelder. I simply thought it improper to have you depart so soon. Heischitz, what do you think? Hannelore asked. I am of the opinion that we should accept this invitation. Her fellow commander grinned and said, This is more or less the only opportunity we have to enter Ehrenfest. I say we go. Lady Rosemont, I thank you ever so much for the invitation. Please allow us to join you. I appreciated how adaptive they were being. Rather than moaning that our invitation was too abrupt or cleaving to customs, they were viewing our request as an opportunity to be seized. The royals, in contrast, had requested the usual 3 days, and we'd gone to them with news of an extremely urgent emergency. They had so much to learn from the people of Dunkelfelder. I watched Handelore's group leave to inform their knights of their plans. Strahl, the rest is in your hands, Ferdinand said. Yes, my lord. I will contact Lady Letizia soon. Can I expect your return tomorrow afternoon? You can. I will go from Ehrenfest to Bindewald, then return to the castle once we have taken Dunkelfelder's knights to the border gate. Ferdinand told Strahl to deliver instructions to Letizia and to help the Dunkelfelderians staying in Bindewald retrieve face stones and move prisoners. Simply threatening to ban alcohol from the upcoming feast was enough to light a fire under the knights. Just how much did they like to drink? I was both exasperated and in awe of their resilience. Lady Rosemine, I am done, Hartman called. I almost couldn't believe how much hearing his voice put me at ease, but that wasn't important right now. I turned to him, wrenching my attention away from the face stones gleaming in the sunlight and the knights collecting them. Excellent work, I replied. You've done me a great service. The nobles and commoners of Gerlach can now rest a little easier. Hartman had been tasked with overseeing the small chalices retrieved from the Giebs and returning the mana stored within them to the duchy's land. As a former high priest, he knew how to operate small chalices better than any of the nobles. The now empty chalices must be returned to Old Workstock, I said. How are its commoners, I wonder? That problem does not concern you, Lady Rosemine. It is the duty of the next Ob Workstock. I don't think they're going to get an Ob anytime soon. Hartman's opinion was that we could inform the royal family of the temple's keys and push for a new Ob to be assigned to Workstock during the Archduke Conference. He was especially critical of their decision to leave a duchy without an Ob in the first place. Yeah. Once our business is done, we will return to the castle to celebrate. You went through an especially treacherous battle as a scholar, Hartman. Do take some time to unwind as well. Well, I do want to inform all the people of Ehrenfest how you managed to defeat Grossum. Would that not reveal that my Pandabus destroyed one of the Giebs' estates, I asked timidly. Hartman nodded with a bright smile. Matthias and you were the only ones who entered the estate. As I prayed for your victory, the light of various blessings shone through the window. Even when your one and only knight was removed from the battle, you continued to fight, and in the end you destroyed the roof to dispatch Grossum. That enlarged high beast was a sight to behold. I must describe it to everyone. Please, no! Hartman, don't do this! I know you're insanely obsessed and devoted to Rosemine, but rein it in a little, please! I was hoping to sneak Sylvester some gold dust to make up for my blunder. The last thing I needed was for someone to start blabbing about it. Hartman, I forbid you from attending the feast, I declared. My lady would never make such a one-sided demand. And in any case, he looked at my other guard knights. I am far from the only one who saw it. Cornelius smiled. As my brother, he was best suited to being frank with me. By the time Lord Ferdinand told us could charge into the estate, the most I could see was Grossum and the remains of white walls. At first, I wasn't at all sure what I was looking at. I'm pretty sure you're the only one in the world who tried to fight back by making a giant version of your high beast. Cornelius, I cried in horror. You won by using methods that Grothstrom would never have come up with on his own. Never would he have expected someone to fly over his traps in their high beast. Matthias! As desperately tried to keep my guard knights from discussing the battle, Ferdinand called out to me. Rosamund, the teleportation circle has activated. Come. He sounded exasperated. Hannelore giggled. She was already waiting beside the teleporter with everything she needed. You played a spectacular role in everything from the purging of Lonzanov to the Battle of Gerlach, she said to me, having already named our various skirmishes. I am moved. Oh no, Lady Hannelore, the role you played was far more significant. If that's how you truly feel, Lady Rosamund, then I appreciate it greatly. I mean, how couldn't it be? Soon enough, Sylvester appeared on the shining teleporter with 3 guard knights. He saw us lined up and broke into a grin. Rosamund, I don't even know what to say. Well done, Lady Hannelore, to you and your knights. I extend my deepest thanks, and finally, welcome home, Ferdinand. Welcome home. It's not home! It's not home anymore! He's in Arensbach now! Oh my god! He's not home for long. Let's return to the castle. We can save that formal greeting for later. Rosamund, Ferdinand, help us out. As instructed, we knelt down and started channeling mana into the teleporter. Sylvester formed his staff in the meantime. Then Lussel, Ehrenfest. Black and gold lights twirled through the air and the world around us faded away. Ah! Oh, come on! This is going to take way too long. Hold on. Table of contents. Everyone's Tales of Heroism, Celebratory Feast, Sleepless Night. Oh no, that's what's going to take long. Okay, Everyone's Tales of Heroism. Let's continue one more. Everyone's Tales of Heroism. Welcome back, Charlotte said. Thank you for coming, Lady Hannelore, Florencia added. We appreciate your duchy's assistance from the bottom of our hearts. My vision finally settled to reveal the knight's training ground. Charlotte and Florencia were the only ones who had come to welcome us, and they had as few retainers with them as they could get away with. Melkor was likely in the temple, but what about Wilfried and Karlstadt? The unusual setup made me nervous. Sylvester, I don't see Wilfried or Melkor, I asked, or my father for that matter. We might have been able to wrap things up here before the fighting at Gerlach concluded, but we haven't had long to gather ourselves. Karlstadt is at the orders command post of Wilfried, who's giving him a hand there. Melkor hasn't yet returned from the temple. Relax. Nobody sustained any serious injuries. They're just busy with the cleanup. Oh, thank God! We dumped so much of our work on Arensbach's knights and Gerlach's nobles, but here in Ehrenfest there was nobody they could delegate to. As the duchy's highest authority, Sylvester was busy delegating the cleanup to other members of the Archducal family, and as the knight commander, Karlstadt was especially busy since he hadn't been able to excuse himself from attending the feast. We really were short-handed. How about the temple in the lower city, I asked. Was anyone hurt there? As of yet, we haven't received word of any major injuries, Sylvester replied. Come on, don't look so worried. The knights at the gates and the knights stationed at the temple apparently went above and beyond the call of duty. Just ask those retainers of yours who were there. Dunkelberger's representatives had yet to receive proper greetings, so I didn't question Sylvester any further. He lined up next to Florencia and Charlotte, then exchanged the usual court courtesies with Hannelore. They went on for ages and were packed with the names of gods. If not for the assistance of Dunkelberger's knights, Sylvester said, I suspect we never would have rescued Ferdinand or protected our foundation. Your support in Gerlach was similarly heartening. He went on to note that my scholar's correspondence about Dunkelberger's involvement in the purging of Lonzanov had proven especially useful in the defense of Ehrenfest. Good to know Hartmut's and Clarissa's letters helped. As abrupt as this invitation must have been, I am so very thankful that you accepted it, Sylvester continued. If we had missed this opportunity to receive your hard work, or reward your hard work, we would have struggled to find another. Our victory feast shall begin at 6 bell. It will be only humble in scope, but I hope it still conveys the depth of our gratitude. He then turned to Florencia and Charlotte. Take our guests from Dunkelberger to their rooms. Baths have already been prepared for them. They may relax until the feast. Thank you, Hannelore replied with a gentle smile. I had hoped to bathe before our celebration. Sylvester smiled in turn, then addressed Ferdinand. We prepared a guest room for you as well. A guest room? Ferdinand blinked a few times in confusion, then glanced at me and said, Ah, yes. Despite the warm welcome he'd received from Sylvester, he no longer had a home to return to, not since he'd given his estate to me. I'd wanted to bring him back to Ehrenfest, but now I'd taken his chambers from him. That wouldn't do at all. Ferdinand, I said, use my library. But that would be... Please, I will stay in the castle. Your chambers have been kept largely as they were, and you should feel more comfortable staying somewhere you're familiar with. If you need potions, use the workshop and its ingredients as you please. Just make sure Losfam sees you are safe. Hannelore gave me a strange look. Lord Ferdinand has chambers in your library? Indeed, my library was once his estate. He gave it to me when he moved to Ahrensbach, and my first course of action was to fill it with books, I replied, unable to keep from boasting. The books mostly belonged to Ferdinand, but I decided not to mention that. Lady Hannelore, Ferdinand added, I did not have a wife or any children when I received the royal decree, ordering me to live Ehrenfest. The estate was given to me by my father, so I elected to pass it on to Rosamund, my charge at the time. That was all. To be frank, I did not think my chambers would still be there, because she's not using them. I turned sharply to Ferdinand, who looked thoroughly exasperated. Did I not tell you I wouldn't touch them? I wanted you to have somewhere to stay whenever you came home to visit. Yes, but that was merely a promise. I assumed it would only last so long. I considered it inevitable that your library would eventually encroach on my chambers. Not enough books have been made for that. I'm doing my best to print more, but that really was a dream of mine. A collection of so many books that my library could barely even contain them. But I started wondering how to make that happen. Ferdinand sighed. I prefer to sleep in my own chambers, assuming they really do still exist. But would you truly be amenable to that? Of course, as I said, I can stay in my chambers in the castle. I shall send an ordinance to Losfam, telling him to prepare for your arrival. Then, while we wait, I will check on the temple and the lower city. I started pondering all the things I would need to do before returning to the castle, but again, Ferdinand pulled me from my thoughts. Hold on. Do you really mean to abandon your guests? You were the one who invited them here. We can safely assume that the temple and the lower city experienced no major injuries. Be content with your retainer's reports for today and go look tomorrow morning. There is not much time before 6 bell. He was right. By the time I'd bathed and received updates from my retainers, it would almost be time for the feast. I sent an ordinance to Losfam asking him to make arrangements for Ferdinand, Eckert, and Justice, and his response came at once. He had already made them, having heard it through Laysletta that Ferdinand was safe and returning for the feast. Losfam really is an excellent attendant, I said. But of course, Ferdinand scoffed. He trained under me. Laysletta is just as good, though, if not better. Ehrenfest, are they normally like this? Hannelore asked Sylvester. She and Heichitz both looked stunned. Sylvester let his eyes wander as though searching for the right words. They gave a hushed response. Yes, most of the time. Yes, they are like this a lot. Woo! Welcome back, Lady Rosamund, Audley said upon my return to the castle. I am glad to see you are safe. Laysletta and Gracia greeted me too. They had received news of my arrival from Charlotte and rushed over from the library to start getting everything ready. Abrupt invitations inconvenience more than just the recipient. They also troubled the attendants tasked with preparing for their unexpected guests. Even with Bertilde's assistance, Brunhilde had to run all over the place to prepare Dunkelfelger's guest rooms, Audley said. Let us head there now. Only once those formalities were out of the way did Audley look at her son Hartman and his fiancée Clarissa. A smile spread across her face as she told them she had informed the family estate of their return. Then she briskly took her leave. As it turned out, she had waited around as long as she was able so that she could confirm everyone was safe. Since Lady Rosamund is about to bathe, the guard knights could return to the dorms in shifts Laysletta has suggested to them. You all will need to change clothes for the feast. The knights nodded and got to work deciding the order in which they would get ready. I watched them out of the corner of my eye before heading to the changing room with Grisha. She took out my hair ornaments and started delicately undoing my hair. The temple has been contacted, she said. Judith and the others should arrive by the time you have finished bathing. So, how did the war seem from here in Ehrenfest, I asked. Was anyone hurt? We were in the library for the most part. Thanks to the magic tool you set up to protect it, we did not even notice the fighting. They had known when it had started and ended thanks to the arrival of ordnances, but no damage had come to my library. Grisha continued, even before there were signs of a battle, Damio brought the Gutenbergs and their families to the library in the morning. It was a surprise to see so many commoners arrive all at once. So he kept his promise and protected everyone, I said. He must have sensed Georgine's arrival early and moved the Gutenbergs to my library. The safest location thanks to my magic tools. He did. One moment that stood out to me was when your hairpin maker and her family removed their charms and asked them to deliver them to her father. Then they started working on your hair ornaments and clothes, saying they had to do what they could to help. Grisha had just finished undoing my hair and started helping me out of my riding clothes when Laysletta entered. Oh, were you discussing today's events? There were several Gilberta Company seamstresses among those who evacuated. They brought your clothes and hair ornaments with them to the library to ensure their safety. As I recall, they said a fitting would need to be done and wondered when you might be free. We would need to contact them. Oh. Yeah, what are we going to do? She's now up Ahrensbach! Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Wait, they're still going to have to move. They just can't go to the sovereignty. They're going to Ahrensbach instead. I could picture Tully and Karina both throwing themselves into the work. They would have felt uneasy doing nothing at all, and my approaching departure was a practical concern. But still, the Gutenberg's decision to keep busy after their evacuation had turned the library into a surprising, relaxing environment. Those of the Planting Company observed the estate's furnishings in the library as closely as they could, eager to learn anything that might help them with their books and exterior eateries. They already had a good understanding of the books made in Ehrenfest, but they said they had never carefully observed a normal one. Feline and Judith arrived as I was finishing my bath. They both looked well. I wasn't dressed yet, so Roderick was waiting in another room with the male knights. So the library was safe, but what about the temple, I asked? Did it end up becoming a battlefield? Oh. Feline nodded, an uncomfortable look on her face. But, everyone in the orphanage is safe. We received an ordinance from Daniel at Third Bell and evacuated them as per our drills. That must have been around the same time that the Gutenbergs had made their way to the library. The Grey Priests guarding the temple were replaced with knights, and the Shumil magic tools were activated, Judith added. She had evacuated the orphans and stayed in contact with Melkor's retainers. A short while later, Daniel sent word that threats had appeared at the West Gate. Wowee, sounds like he was the real star of the show. It made sense that Daniel had been the best source of up-to-date information about the attack. He had been tasked with defending the lower city, but hearing his name pop up again and again really showed how much he had done. I used my high beast to get an aerial view of the lower city, Judith continued. There was shouting at the West Gate, and the sight of commoners running around when they had been ordered to stay inside told me the battle had truly begun. She had noticed the knights all rushing to the West Gate and wanted to assist them, but her duty had been to defend the temple. The most she could do was watch the clamor. It was while I was in the air that I noticed a wagon moving strangely. Daniel had sent his warning ordnance at Third Bell, and the fighting at the West Gate had started before Fourth Bell. At that time, the main street had been largely devoid of people, and the farmers transporting wagons of vegetables had passed to the gates of their farming towns or to an evacuation camp to the south. By Fourth Bell, the north of the city was nothing but closed shops, but the wagon was headed there anyway. Then it disappeared into the shadows of an alleyway. I suspect that was where it stopped, as a short while later, a group of people appeared at the north gate. They weren't dressed in silver, but I suspected the West Gate might be a diversion, so I sent an ordinance to the knights guarding the noble's quarter. Judith sounded proud as ever as she recalled the events of the battle, and for good reason. Her gut feeling had proven correct. The figures had formed their high beasts and turned hostile as soon as they were discovered. The thing is, that was a diversion too, she continued. As ordnance were darting all over the place, the temple's back gate was blown wide open. The small door meant for those traveling on foot had exploded, and the invaders had rushed through while unleashing flashbangs and instant death poison. Oh, great. The reports you sent in the morning had already taught us how to deal with the poison, so we performed wash it instantly and drank our Jereves. The knights all survived. However, because they had drunk their Jereves, they had needed to rely on the Shumils to fight for them. Judith had likewise come into contact with the poison while she was flying above the temple's gate, but the other knights had acted as per my instructions. The Shumils were unbelievably strong. One of the 5 invaders was wearing skin-tight silver clothes, so the Shumils weren't able to detect them and allowed them to pass. So that was Georgine, probably. But the other 4 were almost immediately killed by the blue and pink Shumils that came running from the front gate. Jesus, dude! The Shumils are awesome! The Shumils moved so tremendously fast and mowed down the intruders with their radiant golden scythes. I already knew they could prioritize speed since they had only until they ran out of mana, but I still couldn't believe how suddenly they cut down the threats. They ended up covered in blood, but don't worry, I cleaned them with a washing. Thank you, Judith. She was wearing a proud smile, but the mental image of Shumils soaked red with the blood of their enemies was kind of terrifying. I contacted Lord Melkor to report that one silver-clothed invader had made it into the temple. I did not experience the events that followed firsthand, but the person was apparently Lady Georgine. She triggered a bunch of traps before ultimately being teleported to the Ivory Tower. Yes! How anticlimactic! I thought it was going to be a battle between Sylvester and Georgine. Ha ha! That's what you get! That's what you get! Judith hadn't seen the events of the Bookworm then. I would need to ask Melkor and his retainers for more details. Oh, also, one of the intruders the Shumils killed was Grossum, Matthias... Wait, what? That's not... okay, he had 3 body doubles then, or at least 2. Grossum? I shall let you decide if you want to tell Matthias. We took Grossum down in Gerlach, didn't we? I cocked my head at her, and that was when I remembered. Matthias had said something about his father having 3 body doubles. Body doubles? But which Grossum was the real one? Is the battle actually over? A knee spread through my chest, and I saw my face pale in the mirror. I wanted to leap up and race straight to the temple and the lower city. Lady Rosemine, are your male retainers allowed to enter? Laisletta asked. Daniel and Roderick are here. Lorenz is currently stationed outside the door, while my sister is guarding it from the inside. The other guard knights seem to have returned to their rooms to change. I snapped back to my senses and nodded. Laisletta and Gracia had at some point finished doing my hair and changing my clothes. Please do. I would appreciate this chance to have her hear a report from Daniel. He certainly was a hero, Lisletta giggled. She and Grisha then went to fetch him. It wasn't long before Daniel and Roderick entered. The latter was holding a pen and some paper ready to take notes. Maybe he had been transcribing Daniel's perspective on the fighting? Welcome back, Lady Rosemine. Thank you, Daniel. I'm glad to be back. You were able to protect the Gutenbergs, were you not? And it has come to my attention that your ordinances were immensely helpful to everyone who received them. I thank you ever so much. His eyes wandered as he struggled to find a response, and he finally said, I am honored to receive your praise. He was undermining his own achievements in true Daniel fashion, and this sight caused a smile to play on my lips. I am told the Westgate was attacked. Please tell me the direct damages. Very well. Some of the Westgate soldiers were hurt, but none sustained serious injuries. We can thank Bridget's ordinances, which gave us time to prepare ourselves. Bridget's ordinances, I repeated. As much as I was relieved to hear everyone was saved, that wasn't a name I expected to hear. Indeed, he replied with a nod. Any commendation for my warning should go to her. She had wanted to contact you, but as you, Angelica, and Cornelius were all outside Ehrenfest, her ordinances refused to take flight. She sent one to me as a last resort. Frustrated, Bridget had sent Daniel an out of the blue ordinance, demanding to know why she couldn't reach me during this state of emergency. She also reported that an Ilgner lumber merchant visiting Liesgang had seen a group of strange individuals board a boat. They had called themselves traveling merchants, but their arrogance and flowery language aroused suspicion. Everyone could tell they were nobles in disguise, so they kept their distance, which only made the group stand out even more, Daniel continued. The lumber merchant returned to Ilgner just as the Gabe's knights were gathering information about any suspicious individuals, and the rest goes without saying. The knights who had received the merchant's report had attempted to deliver it to the Gabe, but he'd never had the chance. He had arrived both on the heels of Old Rookstock's invasion, and while the Gabe was requesting reinforcements from Sylvester, so he'd simply been turned away. In the end, the knight hadn't been able to deliver his message to the Gabe. The knight commander had been giving his order a rousing speech about enduring until the reinforcements arrived, rushing everyone to get ready for battle, all the while the other knights had also hurried him, so he'd flown with them to the battlefield, where he'd ultimately reported to Bridget. I could only imagine the shock she must have felt when her ordinance to me had refused to fly. Sorry, Bridget. I wasted no time consulting Liesgang about these suspicious individuals, and asked when the ship in question was expected to arrive at Ehrenfest West Gate. Daniel continued. He had passed along a description of the suspected nobles and several other details, like the fact that a lumber merchant from Ilgner had made an initial report, and asked that the matter be looked into post-haste. They began their investigation at once, perhaps because they had already been told the knight's order would contact them. The speed with which they then produced results seemed like a testament to how much the group in question stood out. Liesgang had responded that the boat would arrive at about 4th bell, weather permitting. Thus, Daniel had sent ordinances to various locations, warning them to be on guard, and evacuated the Gutenbergs. The lumber merchant's information proved it correct. A boat that arrived immediately before 4th bell was transporting individuals with silver capes and wolfenales. A request for more knights had been sent out, but not even they had prepared them for the coming battle. The invaders had attacked in greater numbers than expected, and with wolfenales, it was then that Daniel had sent out ordinances requesting more backup and announcing the start of the fighting. Daniel continued. The knights at the West Gate warned the soldiers about the dangers of wolfenales and trusted them with an important duty, dumping waste on the invaders to force them to remove any silver clothes. The excrement had been dropped on the silver-caped invaders as they tried to pass through the gate. Of course, the sullied nobles hadn't been too pleased about mere commoners disgracing them, so they had unleashed their wolfenales and taken out their staffs. The knights hiding in the shadows to prevent their escape had then burst out all at once and taken them down. That reminds me, Daniel said, a captain at the West Gate, Gunter, truly scared me. Hearing that name made my stomach lurch. Why, what happened? Was he seriously hurt? The fact that he had given Daniel no more than a fright might have meant he had ended up in danger but managed to escape. There weren't enough knights to contain the wolfenales, so one of the beasts slipped through and pounced on a soldier. Gunter leaped into action and punched it with his gauntlet, like this. Daniel swung in the air a few times to demonstrate. A commoner started punching a wolfenale, I asked. He even let out a shout like, "What are you doing to my subordinate, you mangy pup?" Oh, Gunter, you are awesome! As heroic as Daniel made it sound, wolfenales were seriously dangerous and could change size based on their mana quantity. Are you sure nobody received any major injuries at the West Gate? My face turned ghostly white as I cried, "Don't tell me you're being sneaky and omitting any deaths from your account." Daniel shook his head with a troubled smile. There were no deaths at all. The wolfenale bit Gunter when he punched it, but your charm activated on the spot. Excuse me? The wolfenale exploded. Dang! Scattering chunks all over the place! Jesus Christ! That was when Gunter realized the true strength of the charms he was wearing and started pushing the boons his family had given him to their absolute limit. I wanted to complain that he was threatening to shatter the promise I made you. I couldn't even begin to describe my embarrassment. I wanted to find a deep hole and dive right into it, or dig my own if need be. Sorry my dad was such a menace, but that was a good thing, though! The attack on the West Gate must have been meant as a diversion from the attack on the temple, Daniel said. Still, we managed to prevent any more bad actors from getting inside the city. Gunter defeated 2 Wolfenels in the end! Then kicked down Grossum. Wait, huh? There was 3! There was 3 behind him! No, wait. There was the one at Gerlach, the one that Gunter punched, and the one that was taken down by the shoe mills. So, where's the real Grossum? Which one was the real Grossum here? The former Geeb Gerlach and finished him with a charm. He put his life on the line, but his results can't be ignored. Could you ask the Ob to consider rewarding the soldiers of the West Gate? A request from you should accomplish far more than if I attempted to make one through the Knight's Order. I thought that was a fantastic idea. The soldiers needed accommodations, and to be honest, so did Daniel. Still, another Grossum. And this time, Dad was the one who took him down. I know, it's insane! Hold on, Judith cried, shooting Daniel a glare like he was trying to steal her valor. It was the temple shoe mill that dispatched Grossum. I saw it with my own eyes. You must be mistaken. No, I recognized his face, Daniel protested. He must not have been too impressed that his observational skills were being called into question. I clapped my hands a few times and got between them. Let's nip this in the bud according to Matthias. Grossum had 3 body doubles. Before we came here, we defeated our own Grossum in Gerlach. Yeah. Okay, so, I'm willing to bet that, one of the body doubles was the one that got, destroyed by Bonifacius back before she went into the Jareve. That's one. So, the real Gerlach was in the hall during that attack in the first place. So, I'm guessing they now I'm wondering, who was the real Grossum then? Because the one that they fought in Gerlach had so many freaking face stones in him that I was wondering if that was a body double. Or now that I'm thinking about it, was he a body double? Come again? Every one of my retainers who had stayed in Ehrenfest stared at me in shock. Angelica was the only one who looked entirely unfazed. That was when I remembered that although I received their reports, I'd yet to give any of my own. Lady Rosemine, preparing a body double is no easy feat. Not everyone's mana is the same color, so the idea that he had 3 is... There are ways to make it happen, assuming one does not mind using cruel and costly methods, I said. Grossum had formed submission contracts with countless devouring soldiers. It wouldn't have been particularly tough for him to dye each person with his mana, since they wouldn't have received any attributes from their parents. He might even have been able to artificially induce the mark of Abiglade within them, although most would simply have died in the process. Could it be that Grossum and Count Bindewald targeted me way back when he turned me into another body double? That's a possibility, yes. In any case, I said, we have confirmed the existence of at least 3 Grossums. It would not surprise me if we discovered that even more were defeated over the course of this invasion. I know. I am more concerned that there might be a 2nd or 3rd Lady Georgine. Oh yeah, that's not a good idea. My retainers all tensed up. If the Georgine housed in the temple turned out to have been an imposter, there was a good chance the real one would rear her head again. I will send an ordinance to Sylvester, I declared. Let us confirm whether Lady Georgine truly was defeated. My bird took flight and soon returned with a response. Yes, we got the real Georgine. Oh, thank God. The one that was teleported to the ivory tower was a fake, but the one I dispatched in the Foundation's hall was real. Was really her. I also got back what was stolen from us. No matter what lingering forces remain, that won't reach our Foundation. Oh, thank God. Okay, so she did have a body double. Okay. The Knight's Order was on top of the various Grossums and Georgines that had been killed. If nothing else, we wouldn't need to worry about our Foundation being stolen during the feast, especially if we retrieved the key to our Bible. The Ordinances repeated its message twice, then turned into a yellow face stone and started to fall in front of me. I've seen it happen so many times before, but for some reason I was trembling too much to catch it as it fell. A chill ran down my spine and my stomach began to ache. Is something wrong, Lazette asked, eyeing me as she curiously as she picked up the stone. I gazed down at my fingers, smiled, and said that it was nothing. I wasn't even sure how to describe the unease I was feeling. Staying seated wouldn't do me much good, so I stood up. Is it almost 6 bell, I asked. Not quite. We won't leave right away. The hall is going to be busy with all the preparations being made, so we shall wait until we are contacted and depart leisurely. I see, I said, and sat back down. I was imagining how busy the hall must be when a small bell chimed. Grisha opened the door and my dressed retainers entered. We apologize for the wait, Lady Rosemine. I stood up again. Well, with everyone here, there may be something we can do to help out in the hall. Before I could attempt to leave, however, Layzetta shook her head. Please rest for a little while longer. I am told you collapsed even in Ahrensbuck. You must be tired, no? I am tired, but it feels impossible to remain still. Layzetta looked at her fellow retainers, then her brow furrowed in concern. Lady Rosamund, you played a crucial role in this battle. There are bound to be any number of guests who wish to speak with you. Rather than trying to help with the preparations, I would advise you to rest or devise ways to deal with anyone who wants your attention. Deal with them, That hadn't even crossed my mind. I'd assumed that all eyes would be on Sylvester for his battle against Georgine, Melkor for defending the temple, or perhaps the knights who had protected the West Gate. I decided to consult my retainers, which prompted Clarissa to beam and stick at her chest. I can spread tales of your heroism all night. My specialty will be the ritual performed over Ahrensbuck's ocean, which I was able to observe in its entirety. Under normal circumstances, I might have tried to convince Clarissa to reconsider, but something told me she would do a better job than I ever could. Lady Rosamund. Yes, very well. I shall entrust this evening's guests to Hartman and Clarissa. So much has happened that I have yet to fully come to terms with. I doubt I would manage to answer any questions properly. It was like a thick fog had descended on my mind, or a blanket was enveloping my memories. If someone else wanted to explain the events of our battle in my stead, I wasn't going to stop them. You may count on me, then, Hartman said, smiling at the convenience. I shall speak so much that you won't need to answer a single question. As I nodded, Cornelius peered down at me, his dark, panicked eyes betraying a single question which he wasted no time putting into words. Rosamund, are you sure? I'm pretty sure you're going to regret this immediately. Oh, I replied with a chuckle, you could always distract our guests with tales of your own heroics. Cornelius shook his head. That's not what I meant. If you let Hartman and Clarissa say whatever they want, in front of the Duckelfelgerians, no less, who are going to make whatever tales they hear even taller, then Mother will go absolutely crazy. Do you want to be her next victim? In her romantic stories? No! No! You don't want that! Cornelius, I went to war. That's it. Nothing romantic happened whatsoever. Do you really think Mother of all people is tired of writing love stories? Do you think she'd try her hand at action-packed tales about knights? The only thing I can think of is her writing is that they find out that she was writing Ferdinand's High Beast and all that other stuff, that she will spin that. She will spin that. Were that the case, wouldn't she be drawn to those who had served as Handler's guards? They would have so many more amazing stories to tell. Of course not, Cornelius muttered, hanging his head. Exactly. It seems to me that her passion for love stories has only increased over the years. In contrast to Cornelius, who looked exhausted before the feast had even started, Roderick's brown eyes were sparkling as he showed me his papers. I want to hear everything there is to hear about your battles. I plan to create some new night stories and a sequel to a dinner story, so everyone's tales of heroism are more than welcome. Aw, Roderick, awesome! As we all smiled warmly at Roderick's enthusiasm, Hartman alone placed a contemplative hand on his chin. In that case, might we have Roderick stay by Lady Rosamund's side and ask the guests about their own heroics that should distract them? Hartman, are you surrendering a place by Lady Rosamund's side to Roderick? Feline asked, worry clouded her face. Do you have a fever or something of the like? Daniel gave a firm nod of agreement. And with that, 6th bell rang. Okay, I think I'm going to have to end this off here. I'm going to work on some lunch. And I'll get this uploaded, and I'll see you guys in the next one.